I'm a little bit dragging, and it got me thinking a lot about the concept of discipline. And a lot of people, when they hear the word discipline, especially parents, they think about discipline. They think about teaching somebody not to do something. They think about, a lot of people when they hear discipline, think about self-control. They think about not doing things. But really, discipline is your ability to do your best all the time, the best you can right now at whatever you're doing, whether it is following the rules and not doing the things you're not supposed to do, or putting your best effort forward on the things you're supposed to do, or putting your best effort forward on following the rules and not doing the things you're not supposed to do. But discipline isn't always going to look like your best. You guys ever seen a graph? I don't mean like a graph like they teach you to read graphs in school. I mean like a graph like, see if I can pull one up. Saw one just a minute ago that's a perfect example. Like a regular graph that tracks something over time, a data graph. I know there's some of you guys that see them as part of your living, what you do. Mr. Doug, I saw you jumped on there. You'd be very familiar with the graph. Now this one doesn't have any numbers on it. I'm gonna try to hide the names, but I want you to kind of see that. You see that graph right there, right? That's how graphs go. Does that look up or does it look down? You know what I mean? And the thing is on any given day, you can still be doing the absolute best that's possible. And one day the graph might be on the up, and the next day the graph might be on the down. The overview is that it gradually moves in an upward direction. Right, Mr. Atkins? I mean, that's kind of the point of investing, for example, right? But I'm not talking about investing financially. I'm talking about investing in yourself. I'm talking about investing in discipline and the way you look at discipline. Instead of thinking of it as discipline as a punishment or discipline as the concept of being able to follow the rules or not do the things we're not supposed to do, if we restructure the way we think about discipline into absolutely doing our best to do everything we do to follow the rules, doing our best to bring our best for, that is a pretty flat, thank you, Mr. Atkins, you point that out. That actually was a pretty flat chart. That particular chart happens to be a graph of weeks. It's about a 4-week long graph where 15,000 different leads were generated by over 500 websites on that particular graph. And it shows which days from Monday to Friday, and then Monday to Friday, and then Monday to Friday again, are the most effective for this company. So you'll see the spikes are on Monday and they go down towards the end of the week, and each spike is where the Mondays are. And that's my point, is that you can always be doing the same, but if you look out of the graph, you can always be putting the same effort in. But if you look at a graph, things don't move up and down. So your best isn't always going to look like your best. And neither is your child's. Your child's best is not always going to look like their best, because their best yesterday is not going to be their best today. It's not going to be their best tomorrow. Some days we're hard on ourselves. Some days we feel down. Some days we got battles in our head that are so big that we can't even see in front of us. And on those days, if doing your best is literally having to break it down to just tiny, tiny, tiny pieces of a task, and it takes you an hour to take your shower in the morning because you're trying to clean and you just can't grasp things, right? Like everybody has these battles, right? And that day, no matter what you try to do on that day, your best is never at doing anything that day is never going to be the best as a day is when you feel good, right? So averages become more and more important. And that's one of the main reasons we moved our testing structures to being across multiple weeks instead of on a single day. Is this concept, discipline. And I've had to think about it a lot today because honestly, I feel like I've worked harder today than I have in 2 weeks. And I actually have accomplished literally nothing. I know that sounds terrible, and I'm not trying to be self-negative. It's simply true. I sat down with a handful of tasks to do, and I tried to focus and get things done, and then it was never good enough. And I kept going back, and I felt like I was doing my best, but I knew it wasn't as good as I should be able to do. Well, of course it's not. I'm not in the best place today. I haven't been for a few weeks. And any guys that do struggle with disorders, you know what I'm talking about, right? That stuff just don't go away. And you struggle with it daily, you struggle with it regularly. And when you have a big hit, a big hiccup, it stays with you for weeks, right? And I'm just a few days into a bit of a crash. I'm coming back around from it. But, you know, my best today, I had to look at it and I found like I just kept feeling worse and worse because I felt like I was doing my best, but it was making me feel worse and worse that my best was just not good enough today. It wasn't good enough for me. It wasn't good enough for my business. It wasn't good enough for anything. And I just went ahead and sat here and tried anyway. And I've finally gave up about an hour ago and just sat back staring at the computer going, but that's the best I got today. And it really is the best I've got today. If I'm trying so hard that I'm nearly in tears and it's still not getting there, you know what? I am trying my best, regardless of if my best today is good enough for what I need or not. I'm still trying my best. And that's what should be important, especially when we're talking to our children. You know, as they say, or as I used to say when I worked commission, judge the results, don't judge the process. Judge the results. So it's like a graph. Graphs are important to be able to see the process, to see the trends, right? And that process is really, really important. But it doesn't necessarily convey or portray what the results are going to be, right? Because you can do everything at your best in the world and not even get a blip on a graph. You know what I mean? You can do everything perfectly and have the best thing in the world, but if nobody knows about it, or nobody knows you, or nobody cares why you're doing it, then it's likely to not ever get anywhere. So the trick is you got to put in your discipline every day, but it can get really, really hard to keep putting in your discipline every day, because it's great for a few weeks. You get better and better at things until that one day that you just can't. It's just not there, right? Like, I don't want to say can't's not aware. You know you're capable of it, but it's just not there that day. It's just not happening that day. You can't let yourself get so too frustrated at yourself or your children on the days that their best isn't what you think it should be, right? Like today, my best, not nearly what I think it should be, not nearly what I know it can be. But I have a choice. I can sit here and keep wallowing about it, or I can get up and go do my best to teach a heck of a class tonight. You know what? If my best while I'm teaching classes tonight is still reflective of my best today, then maybe it's going to be a bad class. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. I can't say that, but I'm not going to sit here and try to tell myself it's going to be bad just because the rest of my day's been bad, right? That's not helpful. I'm not going to keep wallowing in that. And if it does go bad, you know what? I did my best. And if anyone wants to judge me on that, we've all had bad days. You have one of those days, you know, that you can't even get out of bed, show up anyway, put a smile on, and still try to do that. I mean, we all do that sometimes, right? But it may not always be your best that day, may not always be your best 2 days before that, right? Or 2 days after. You have to remember that it's an ongoing process. It's never, never over. Right, Brandy, yeah, man, I'm with you. That's where I'm at the past 3-4 days. Honestly, showing up feels really tough for me. Even showing up and trying feels like it's super, super hard. And I don't know why. You guys know how I am. Like, I always work. I don't shut down. I'm motivated, right? I'm always motivated. I'm still motivated. I'm motivated today, but it seems like the best I can do is barely even show up, you know? And I keep second guessing everything. I keep going around in circles. And we all do that. And the thing is, I got on this video because I wanted to show you guys how I know I'm up there and I do motivational speaking and I teach all these things. And the reason I do that is because it's like I've said before, it's therapy for me. The things that I teach just come from the self-awareness of looking very, very closely at myself and the things that I know I can work on and take the steps to improve on. So that's what I teach. So when it comes down to discipline, I think the number one thing when it comes to discipline and always trying your best is to remember not to be too hard on yourself if it really is your best, but be self-aware enough to know if you could have done better too. Don't make excuses for yourself, but if you feel yourself starting to get super, super down on yourself, getting really, really overwhelmed by the concept that you're not able to perform in a way that you should be able to, you've proven you can, it's okay. As we all get older, things kind of degrade too, right? The joints start to go, eyesight goes, there's all kinds of things. You got to learn how to, the main goal of all of this from the beginning, all the words of the week, the main goal of my therapy is to learn how to be the best of me, right? How to be the best I can be and how to take the steps to get there. I'm a work in progress and I'll probably never get there. And I know I'll never get there on my own, but that doesn't matter because I gave up on trying to accomplish that goal because I realized that that's not a goal. It's a life path. Right? It's a life choice. It's a path I chose and I'm going to keep walking down it. I'm going to keep sharing it with everybody that feels like they can get something out of it as well. because that motivates me and keeps me held accountable to keep doing it regardless of how I feel. I understand where you're at, Miss Brandy. I get it. And you got all kinds of emotions going on right now. I know with the, everything going on, you're all over the place and it feels like you can't help it, right? Like in your head that you shouldn't feel upset. In your head, the logical things tell you that you shouldn't be scared, that you shouldn't feel small right now. But if the feelings are there, the brain will keep jogging itself back to the feelings. And you can change your mind. You can change your brain. If you change your brain, you can change how you feel. That's true. But if the feelings get so strong to a certain point, and this is where you differentiate between someone who's struggling and someone who has a disorder that they struggle with, is the ability to put your mind in a right place and change how you feel, as in change your environment and change how you feel. Or if you find that all those normal things people say work, like changing the way I look at things and reading a positive book and going out in the environment, suddenly aren't changing how I feel, they're changing how I think. I'm thinking better, but I'm still not feeling better. Guys, that might be when it's a good time to talk to the people, talk to your loved ones about that. You can't control it for some reason. You're having trouble controlling it. And if anyone ever comes and talks to you like that, never, ever, ever, never discount how they feel or tell them that they shouldn't feel that way, or try to give them a reason why they shouldn't feel that way, because I can guarantee you they've been doing that in their own head for 3 days before they came to you. And so then they come to you with it because they can't figure it out. And your first piece of advice is essentially telling them that they shouldn't feel the way that they do. They know they shouldn't feel the way they do. That's why they came to you to speak. So if you have a loved one come to you along those lines, please, 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 I urge you to listen, and listen close. Because the things they are trying to tell you are very difficult to say, and they don't know how to say it, and they're welled up with emotion while they're doing it. And it's very, very hard. So make sure a bear hug. No, Mr. I saw that bear hug comment. No, I think I can do without a bear hug for the moment. But, it's discipline is just about doing your best. You got to understand to not be too hard on yourself and realize that your best isn't always going to look your best, and it's certainly not always going to feel your best. It's not. My best today does not feel like my best at all. Why does it not feel like my best? Because I can't seem to keep that controlled focus. I can't seem to keep the thoughts under control. I can't seem to think my own thoughts. Does that make sense? The thoughts run for me, and I can't seem to get a hold on them, and then the emotional play that goes along with it, and these emotions that I feel so overwhelmingly that I have absolutely no reason to feel. It's a very, very difficult thing to deal with. And so if you're someone that struggles with that, man, you are not alone. And don't be afraid to talk to your loved ones, but particularly if you know someone that struggles with that, please try to be sensitive to that. If they seem to not be able to do something today, children particularly, if they seem to not be able to do something as well today as they could do a few days ago, it's not helpful to get on them and be like, but you could do it 3 days ago. You could do it. You should be able to do it. You're good enough. You showed me before. And I know I'm guilty of doing those things too, but honestly, it might just be that particular day, their emotions are sapping their energy. I don't know, you guys know, like these strong, overwhelming emotions, anxiety, fear, depression, they absolutely suck your physical energy right out of your muscles. They suck your energy right out of your brain, and you just walk around like a zombie, right? I mean, I equate walking around with a mental disorder as very similar to walking around as a new parent, where you're utterly exhausted because your brain's going 24/7 on 1,000 different things you're trying to track at once because you're concerned about your new baby, and there's all these anxieties and fears about being a good parent. So if you know someone, a loved one that struggles, and you're trying to find a way to relate, remember back to when you were extremely exhausted if you've got kids, when you first had your kid. And now imagine that's like 24/7 all the time, every day, never stops. They can't take a vacation to get away from it. They can't go to the coffee shop to get away from it. Going out into town ain't going to get away from it. Being alone ain't going to get them away from it. And that's how they feel. And so, try to be, and they're doing the best they can, because people like me, I don't like talking about the fact that I have a problem. I don't like admitting that I have a problem because I still feel like I should be able to fix it. You know what I mean? And I'm trying. I really am. I'm going to continue to try my best to fix it. But it's very, very difficult to admit when something's out of your control. It's very, very difficult to admit when a part of yourself is out of your control. It's very, very scary to end up in those situations. So please don't be the type of teammate that tries to give the tough love and toughen them up and kick them on through it and push them through, because for some people, that's what they need. For other people, the things they're going through is not something physical. It's not something situational. There's nothing wrong with their life. It's just wrong in here. And no matter how hard they try to change it, it's just not happening. So I'm just asking in this video, I hate being open about these things. I hate talking about these things so much because it's very, very personal for me. But at the same time, I know many, many others struggle with these things, and many people don't have a full comprehension or understanding of exactly what it is to be in high adrenaline mode 24 hours a day, to not be able to sleep for longer than 30 minutes to an hour at a time. And even when you do, you have the worst stinking nightmares that you wake up unable to breathe and suffocating. That's what it feels like to have a panic disorder, have an anxiety disorder 24/7. It feels like every time you get a compliment. Here's an example. I've had some of you guys on this video right now have complimented me over just even in the past week. Person with problem, every time I get a compliment, I want to be grateful. I'm grateful for it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And as soon as I turn around, my brain goes, but, right? And then my brain goes, but did you really live up to that compliment? But did you really deserve that? But because honestly, you know, and then you go, no, shush, right? Like, that's not me. I'm confident. I believe in myself. Of course I deserve that compliment. But all day those thoughts keep popping back up and you can't control them, and they suck your energy and they suck your thought and they suck your presence and they suck your focus, and they just make you feel like you got nothing left to give. And so if you know someone that struggles like that, they're out there trying their best to put on a mask to not let their problems affect anyone else, because they know that they don't want it to affect them, and they can't understand why it's affecting them. So be aware of the people around you. It all comes down to courtesy, right? It comes down to just being nice to everybody you know. You've all seen the age-old meme, heard the age-old quote, the old, everyone's fighting a battle that you don't know. Yeah? Some people's battles are harder than others. Some people's battles don't even seem like they should be battles from your perspective, right? I know many times I've opened up about the particulars of some of the battles I'm having, and other people will be like, but that shouldn't even be, like, you shouldn't even be having that struggle in your own mind. I know I shouldn't, but I am, and I can't control it, right? And that's kind of the thing, is all this stuff we teach in the Word of the Week, the merit badges, discipline, focus, courtesy, respect. It's all me and how I learned how to control it and how I learned how to mask it in public, so that I could get along with other people, so that I could feel good about being in public, so that I could feel good about interacting with people again. Because before I started this journey, I couldn't even speak to somebody. I wouldn't even buy something I wanted because I was too scared to go into the store and talk to a cashier. I was too scared to go get it and bring it to a counter. Do you have any idea how that feels as an adult, right? Like, how can I be so locked up, scared, and so angry with myself for being scared, going in there and just buying something that I want? But that's something that a person with anxiety disorder, a person with panic disorders deals with constantly. They don't know why. They ask themselves why a lot. They try to get to the root of the fear, the root of the issues. But when you get down there, even if you cut out those roots, there's always something, right? There's always something. You know why? Because it's conditioned. It's something that people like me have conditioned. And I recognize that it's self-brought upon. But it doesn't help me when other people go, you know, you're just doing it to yourself. You know, you just did it to yourself. Yes, I know that. Yes, many of us with panic and anxiety are fully well aware that we did it to ourselves in some form or fashion because of how we looked at a particular trauma or how we went about stuff since we were little as a kid and everything else. We know we did it to ourselves in some form or fashion, but it's not helpful to know that. You know, it's not helpful to know that. But I've also found it's not helpful to blame anyone else either. Forgive anybody. If you've got some stuff that relates to past traumas, you've got to forgive them. I forgave everybody related to my past traumas years and years ago. But you know, it doesn't stop the flashbacks. I mean, yeah, guys, I mean, I know I'm not the only one. Chantel's on this. Like, Chantel, you ever deal with like the memory flashbacks? Like the suddenly you start to feel scared or panicked and suddenly you're in a bad thing that happened to you again. And it's all you can think, see, touch, breathe, hear. And it's scary. It's absolutely terrifying when those things happen to you. If you ever have, something ever happens to someone, someone ever looks a little overwhelmed. That's why when I go places, when I'm out in public, and I even see someone who looks even a tiny bit overwhelmed, I try to talk to them and smile and see if I can get them to sit with me and have a coffee. Guys, I try not to be late anywhere. I hate being late anywhere. I try to be 20 minutes early, but if I'm ever late anywhere for you, that's why I was late. It was probably because I saw somebody and I tried to stop and help them stop for just a minute, catch their breath, and try to just talk to them about something else, distraction. So if you really want to help somebody in those situations, distraction, pull them onto something positive, and it won't be easy because however long they've been on that negative train of thought, they're going to be deeper and deeper in that rabbit hole. The deeper they are in that rabbit hole, the harder it's going to be to distract them. But if you can distract them away from it, much like distracting a child away from something they're hyper-focused in on, then you can help. You can help. It's just part of being the best teammate you can be. So remember, as far as discipline week, to not harp too much on yourself if you're disciplined, your best doesn't feel like or look like what your best used to look like. And remember to have some amount of patience and forgiveness for those if you feel like their best isn't good enough right now. And it's to the point that they don't know what else to do. Have a little patience, have a little forgiveness. Instead of hollering, screaming, kicking, and fighting, sit down and help them do it. Sit down and show them how. Sit down and talk, or cuddle up, watch a movie. Because sometimes I can't talk. Sometimes I get to the point I can't talk, and I don't want to watch a movie either. But I hate the quiet. So Miss Rose, she'll turn on the air conditioner. We have a little window unit that makes noise. She'll hand me my earphones, and she'll just sit by me until I decide to get up again. That's probably more helpful than about anything else, to be honest with you. Just knowing there's someone sitting there, not watching me, not staring at me, not judging me. Just sitting there usually reading a book or something, doing some work while I'm there too, just being present. So that if I did say anything, she'd immediately turn around and be there for me. And sometimes that's all that I need for help, is to know that if I say something, that someone will be there, right? So I know I'm behind on the comments. Brandy's back in here again. As I handle sports in cold weather. Yeah, man, cold weather is hard for physical activity. I know runners like cold weather because it's harder to get out of breath. It's easier to get out of breath when it's hot, right? And heat saps your energy more than cold does. But I certainly understand Jolene's point on that. I also don't do well in cold weather playing sports and physical. You get me outside, I'd like to think, I'm physically capable of a lot of things, but you get me outside when it's cold. When I make by cold, I mean, if it's under 65 degrees, I ain't playing a sport with y'all. I ain't doing it. I ain't playing outside if it's under 65 degrees. That is too cold for me to be moving around playing sports, that's for sure. So under 60, that's about the same, under 60. Now, when it's raining, though, I have a different ball game. If it's raining, I love it. I will go play when it's raining. So, yeah, rubbing dirt on it don't always work, does it? It's kind of like salt in the wound sometimes. I appreciate all the comments, guys. I was just trying to catch up real quick before I jump off here in case there's anything else I sparked something I forgot to say. Scared to make appointments for yourself. Brandy, oh my gosh. You hit my biggest problem with me on the head right now. And that's why I got Brittany. Because it don't matter. Like, it could be, I've had that same problem. You know how many appointments I have set for myself? I've set many, right? Doctor appointment, dentist appointments. Like, I've been on my own since I was 16. I've had to set appointments many, many times. I'm in a business. I set appointments all the time. What Brandy just said to talk about there, scared to make appointments for herself. I am too. And I can't. When it comes to things for myself, Brittany is the one that eventually has to go, this is a problem, you're sick, I'm calling the doctor. Because as much as I might even get to the point that I want to go to the doctor, I might even say, maybe I should go to the doctor. And then Brittany go, yeah, you should go to the doctor, go set an appointment. I'd be like, nah, I can't. And then I'll pick up the phone, yeah, I can. I can't. Can't's a bad word. I can't get on there. And I look up and then I start thinking about, nah, I'll just end up being better by the time I get there. They'll tell me nothing's wrong with me. And then the anxiety hits and I don't go. And that's why Miss Rose sets most of my appointments for me, because a lot of times I can't bring myself to do it. I don't know what it is. Talking on the phone is a thing for me. A difficult time talking on the phone when I can't see you, right? Like, I can do video conference, I can see you, I can text. But if I talk on the phone and I can hear your voice, but I can't see you, it's a bit of a trigger for me. I don't know why. Again, don't ask. I don't know. It instantly puts me on edge if I can hear your voice, but I can't see you. I don't know why. It just feels like I'm only getting part of the picture. And yet I have no problem texting people. Weird, right? Which is why I love some of these doctors' offices now are offering this cool little like text appointment thing where you can text them and set up your appointment, and an automated bot, right? Like an automated bot will get your information and set up your appointment through there. Oh, that's awesome. I'd love to see more of those. It's actually one of the reasons we have an appointment auto scheduler at our school, is because if I was looking for a martial arts school for my son and I had to talk to a person to set the appointment, which is completely normal, and I think there's nothing wrong with that at all, I'd struggle with it. I would have a very, very difficult time getting in it. But if someone sends me a link and says, pick a day, I can do that. Put my name in it and it show up that day, I can show up that day because now I know what's expected. You know what I mean? I know what to expect. I know what to go about. But if I don't know what to expect, it's very easy for these emotions to get completely out of control. If emotions get out of control, it becomes even harder to control the thoughts. I'm all about having that control of myself. I'm all about self-control. Really, really am. But you know, some days it's an intricate balance, and the balance of the scale can tip on any given day based on any given thing. And the best we can do is try to balance it all out. And that's why Shayom. So I love Shayom so much. 24 movements in the form represent 24 hours of the day, or balance. And that's why I keep talking about balance in all things, right? Balance in all things. You wouldn't know what light was without day or without dark. You wouldn't know what happiness was without sadness. And so every time I feel the scale tip like it did last week, starting around Tuesday, I do everything I can to bring it back on the other side. Now, what's going to end up happening is when I do start gaining ground on the scale, I'm probably going to overshoot it and go too far the other way and become a bit overconfident with myself for 3 or 4 days, because that happens too. There's two sides to these swings, guys. And then I'll hopefully settle back to the center somewhere. Hope so. There's no hope about it. I will, because I've done it before and I can. I'm going to keep going, and there's nothing wrong. And, you know, honestly, everything's great. Everything's wonderful. I had a wonderful trip yesterday. I had a wonderful Father's Day. I had a wonderful weekend. I just wish I wasn't having these weird feelings while I'm trying to have a good time, you know? And sometimes those things can be really tough. So if you're struggling with that, I understand. Don't be afraid to talk to a teammate. And if you got no other teammates that understand, you got teammates that everything they say, they're trying to make it better. You can tell they love you and they're trying to make it better, but they're saying things that are just skipping off and being turned into negatives and helpful. Reach out to me. I understand exactly what that's like. And I mean exactly what that's like. And I'll do everything I can to help you through it if you help me through it too. You know what I mean? So, and honestly, that's part of helping me through it, is helping other people through things, helps me through my own things, because it's help, you know, it's all about perspective. And even though I can change my perspective without changing my emotions, if I'm also changing my perspective and the reason to help someone else change their perspective, then my emotions start being about them instead of about myself. And I care about others way more than I care about myself. It's you can call it a character flaw all you want, but it's just how I am. I am in last place to me all the time. Always. I always come last. And I will fight you to the death if you tell me otherwise. Just that way. I care about other people more than I care about myself. But that gives me a way to get out of these things, because then if I start helping someone else that's struggling right now, then I become more concerned about their emotions than mine. When I become more concerned about their emotions than mine, I can get control back on mine. I can get a handle back on things, right? Giving to others is the best way to get in return. Courtesy is the one kind of coin that the more you spend, the more you'll always get back. And that's all I'm saying here, guys. Be understanding of each other. Be the best teammates you can be. I'm not sure what that says, videos, teledoc. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is, Brandy. What is a teledoc? Yeah. Oh, Doug, you did. You were one of those that was on the phone for a long time, and that's me. Like I say, I can do it. I'm not saying I can't do it. I can do it. It's just very, very hard for me. Once I get started and I get about 10 minutes into that phone call, then I'm okay, right? And I can kind of keep going from there because I get a pretty good thing on it. Oh, don't apologize for that, Mr. Atkins. That was me proving to myself that I could do it. I mean, getting on the phone, always being on the phone and doing the calls. I made sure for many, many years that I did all the calls, I did all the reach outs, and I did all the leads. Not because I was the best at it. Honestly, Brittany was always better for that job than I was. I insisted on doing it myself for a long time as proof to me that I could do it, no matter how much it hurt to do it. And so, Doug, don't be sorry. You helped me. You were a stranger at the time, and you helped me prove to myself that I could handle it. And on top of that, the fact that y'all came in and signed up proved to me even more that I could do it and I wasn't so bad at it, right? I wasn't so bad about talking. So don't feel sorry for that. Don't be sorry about that at all, Mr. Atkins. That's not a problem at all. Yeah, Brandy, showing up to a martial arts school, obviously one of the scariest things you'd ever do. You know, the only reason I did it at the time, it just got out of the hospital this is back in 2010. And they had me on all kinds of medications at the time, many of which had me all kinds of messed up. But basically for about 6 months, I was afraid of nothing. And that's how I ended up back in the martial arts. I was afraid of nothing. So I jumped out, started another business, and ended up trading services. And, you know, then that was around the time, that was all around the time that I was getting off of the medications around that time, because I was starting to have some problems with them. I'm not judging anybody on medications. In fact, I've considered them going back many times myself because they've done a lot since then. But what I was on 10 years ago, I was having some serious problems with, and there weren't really any other options. And that's why I got off of it, is because I was having some real problems with fear. Is a good thing. A little bit of self-doubt can be a good thing. When you take all of it away, it can be very, very bad. And so I was having some struggles with it, and I decided that I needed to find a balance, and I couldn't do that while I was at. But I know they've come a long way with those things nowadays, you know, and so I'm not judging. I don't want anyone to think I'm judging about anything like that. I'm just saying that my choice was to see if I was strong enough to do it, to see if I was strong enough to be myself with my problems and still accomplish something with my life. And you know what? Here I am, right? May not seem to have accomplished much to a lot of people, but I probably do not have the nicest house of any of you guys know. This is an old house. It's falling apart. The roof is falling off. The siding's falling off. You know, but I don't care about things. I don't have things. You know what success is to me? Proving to myself that I can do it. Proving to myself that I'm stronger than these emotions that I don't know where they're coming from make me feel. Proving to myself that I'm stronger than these weird negative thoughts that just keep popping up, whether I want them to or not. To prove I'm stronger than that. That's what success is to me. If I'm proving to myself that I'm stronger than those things, then I am successful. So guys, I've been successful before I made my first $1 at martial arts. I've been successful ever since, because I proved to myself every day that I can do it. Just like I'm about to go to class right now. After, to be honest, I probably have a good 2 hours off and on of crying and tears down my cheeks today. You can see the darkness in my eyes. I'm still going to show up. I'm going to teach the best class I can because I know I can do it, and I'm going to prove to myself that I can do it. So I'm going to be there, level 3 class, starting at 6 o'clock tonight. It's discipline week. Don't be too hard on yourself about your best, but make sure that you actually are putting in your best as well. Don't be too hard on your children when they don't seem to be doing their best. Just give them a reminder and ask them. Instead of telling them they're not doing their best, ask them, is that really your best? You think if you did this, it could have been better? Ask questions instead of making demands. Ask questions instead of making corrections. And you'd be amazed the type of awesome teammate conversations you can end up having with your child. It's amazing the wisdom that they have, even as young as 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's amazing. No, they don't know anything about the world, but they do know an awful lot about feelings. They do. Children are very self-aware of their feelings. They just don't necessarily always have the words to describe it. You can learn a lot from them. The emotions and emotional control, even though children tend to have no emotional control. If you watch them close, you can learn a lot. So I'll see you guys tonight or later this week. Be the best teammate you can be. Be the best at being you. It's time for me to get dressed out and ready to go.